أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So this is a standard live stream really. Goal is to really unpack what's been going on over the past week or so. And I've been following this whole situation closely, not over the past week only, but since 2009. And the reality is that what we see today is nothing new. It's been going on for a very long time. It will continue to go on for a very long time. Not because I want it to. In fact, most people don't want it to. But the reality is that, as the title suggests, competence does not exist anymore. However, we need the truth with a capital T to ensure that competence is identified and called out. And I came up with this title actually by, as the title suggests, competence does not exist anymore. Right, seems maybe this should work. Not sure if right. Okay, fantastic. So the whole conflict we are looking at is a result of incompetence. Now, I wholeheartedly believe that us Muslims are definitely part of the incompetence. And sorry, one moment here. Trying to understand what's going on. Right. So as I was saying, yeah, this whole entire thing that's going on, I call it a thing because I am still unable to identify what exactly the goal is, as I was saying, for the Americans here. And I center this around Americans because, first of all, extremely incompetent individuals. They are the reason of much of what is happening in the world. And arguably, I am stating problems. I don't categorize myself as an optimist or a pessimist. I don't necessarily even say a realist. I like to take a more objective approach simply by using the Quran. Now, granted, at times I fall short, just like most, and I'm unable to fulfill my duties at times, right? But the point here is that, okay, Tulsi Gabbard, everyone's talking about Tulsi Gabbard, said this thing in March that Iran does not have nuclear weapons and so on and so forth. Fact is, they don't. However, Grossi, the main guy, Grossi, who heads up the, you can say, International Atomic Agency, he admitted as well that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. But He also leaked sensitive information to the scumrailies regarding that very operation that is being the headlines of every single article, or most articles, being the subject of most conversations in this realm. I have a simple question. When this was said in March, why did it take till the second week or so of June for Trump to say, you know what, this is false, this is not true? That to me doesn't make any sense. And in reality, it's not him who's saying all these things. Now, I would like to mention that I will never ever unalive myself. I will never cause harm or be involved in any form of harm or type of discomfort towards any human being, man, woman, child, animal, and any other non living thing. Okay. So, that being said, the fact is that the Iranians have unlocked many of the underground Mossad agents. And what's fascinating is credit where credit is due. We know how efficient these people are. A week ago, the scientists and top military officials were targeted, and this was a result, supposedly, of these agents having bases in Iran to carry out a drone strike. Now, just a side note, this is extremely similar to what happened in Ukraine. So, Ukraine did a drone attack, and that drone attack resulted in the death of a fair amount of people. In fact, let me double check here how many. Ukraine. Okay, so Operation Spider's Web, this happened on June the 1st, and 20 military aircraft were hit, 10 of which were destroyed, according to Reuters. Don't even trust those Zionists. And according to the war zone, next you have 41 military aircraft were hit, at least 13 aircrafts destroyed. This is again according to the war zone. So this drone attack is extremely similar to the one that happened in Iran. Furthermore, 613, June the 13th, 613 laws of the Jews. They did it on a day that coincides with the number of laws they have. Because these guys are waiting for their Messiah, who is the Antichrist, of course. And so people did not die in this case. I thought they did, but it was just military equipment that was damaged. Okay, interesting. So, surely there is some connection here, right? Well, let's check it out. Here we go. Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. I think this is a think tank out of America. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure them boys be leading this. Let me check here. So, Center for Strategic International Studies is a non-profit bipartisan think tank that focuses on international public policy issues, including those related to national security and global challenges. ISIS provides analysis of Middle East and it's not a Zionist organization. Not to take specific policy positions. Okay, interesting. So, they have a podcast here with.
I'm a senior vice president at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, in Washington, D.C. This is the 22nd episode of a CSIS broadcast series entitled Gaza, the Human Toll. It's a partnership among the CSIS Bipartisan Alliance for Global Health Security and my colleagues at CSIS in the humanitarian,
etc., seeing what is left of their houses, trying to put a little.
This is Rafah, just yesterday, southern border area, people flooding back to their homes. Today in Jabalia in the north. Why don't you start by describing what you were?
To the Jewish people, God's chosen people. That's not what it says. Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
I'm sorry to say, Princeton graduate
armed protesters in any way. Order.
is simply reprehensible.
Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues.
What is that based on? What evidence would you
It
have
is
that an
based
order
on
like that
Donald
has ever been
Trump
given?
giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life. So I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's my comeback too. That's as bad as Ted Cruz telling Tucker Carlson that the Bible tells him if he's not on Israel's side, he might be in peril.
It is just as bad. I was going to raise the Ted Cruz stuff. I don't know how that guy can show his face after what Tucker did to him. He did it to himself. Tucker's just the instrument of exposing Cruz's frauds. But that statement he made at the end, without saying, as McGregor said, here's the standard for the use of military force. You can't use deadly force unless it's being used on you. No person under my command will be using deadly force unless deadly force is used on them. Instead, he mocked her by laughing at her and gave this absurd answer, defying his own Princeton education. Don't believe what you read in books, except in the Bible.
Well, that got him out of having to tell an abject lie.
Yeah.
She asked him if he had given authority in the rules of engagement for deadly force. He never answered that question.
Correct, correct. Here's Tucker Carlson going after Senator Cruz on this issue of what does the Bible command? You're a senator and you
will become the Bible.
what?
Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants of Abraham.
In Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
Okay. And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a Democratic. He's elected. But
he's the prime minister, right?
But just like, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle.
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is.
You believe that's what God was talking about in Genesis?
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
By the way, this is quite crazy because in the Injil, in the Bible, Israel is no way near.
I'm talking.
He is saying. Ya Bani Israel is the nation of Yaqub alayhi salam. And it's no way near what he's saying. So this is what I mean by competence and incompetence. Most of us, by us I mean Muslims, we barely know anything about our own deen. And recently I started reading the Quran in Urdu. I have a Mus'haf here. This is I think a Braille Mus'haf. Either way, it's a good translation. And there's a lot of things, for instance, in Surah Al-Mulk. Surah Al-Mulk is a chapter which outlines the dominion of Allah. And it cements the fact that Allah is in control of everything. However, we must do our due diligence, whether it's science, engineering, business, the job you do, looking after your parents, so on and so forth. But expanding this a bit outwardly, one has to realize that at the end of the day, it's a case of ensuring that you know the truth. Because if you refuse to abide by the truth, then it's very, very easy to be led on. And most individuals are led on when it comes to these things. So everyone's speaking about this whole Tucker Carlson interview with this Zionist shill. I mean, look, Tucker Carlson, we know his dad was in the CIA. His dad set up Voice of America. Voice of America is a big, big NGO-ish organization in Pakistan. And yeah, Tucker Carlson, don't trust him at all. You know, all these roasts you see of politicians and influencers, but mostly politicians. It's all done by design because now this whole thing is going viral, right? There's currently a bill being passed in America saying, hey, there can't be any wars because it has to go through Congress in America and the president cannot just sign it off by himself. So, for example, for those of you who are incels or have been incels or are considering becoming an entrepreneur, most of the time the CEO or the managing director of a company has the final sign off. He doesn't have to necessarily ask he or she. Much like a president, however, it's more democratic where it has to go through Senate before it's passed on, right? And in the Senate, there are seats, Republican, Democrats, whoever has the majority forms most of the government. In England is a bit different. You know, the in England you have the House of Commons, and when a bill, which is also the same term is used, when a bill is put through, the monarch, in this case Charles, has to authorize it. By the way, I never say king or queen because these are the individuals that subjugated my ancestors. My ancestry, as far as I can track it, goes back to India, and I won't be surprised if it goes as far as Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. I don't know. In either case, or even have a bit of African in me, but in either case, they subjugated, plundered, and raped my ancestors, right? So the only king is Allah, and I was just talking about Surah Al-Mulk, that us Muslims, for those of you who joined on YouTube and those who have joined on Instagram, I plan to do an English Urdu stream this time because I've got some messages over the past week or so. Pardon me, not week, about 2 weeks ago when I did my last live stream, more around neuroscience. So इंशाल्लाह कोशिश करेंगे कि उर्दू में भी हम ये लाइव स्ट्रीम करें क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में ज़ाहिर उर्दू सबसे ज़्यादा बोली जाती है, उसके बाद फिर इंडिया में, फिर बांग्लादेश में, श्रीलंका में भी, नेपाल में भी। तो ये काफ़ी बड़ी ऑडियंस है, नाजरीन काफ़ी बड़ी है। खैर मैं तो बस इतना कह रहा था कि मुसलमान जो है वो कुरान पाक से इतना ताल्लुक़ स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं है. So we do not have a strong connection with the Quran. And this was bound to happen. And this is why in the title you see competence is no longer there. From us Muslims, of course, and the non-Muslims show it by being incompetent. So what do I mean? What I mean is, again, everyone has seen this Tulsi Gabbard individual who is the head of defense or security. I forgot the exact title, right? But she's head of defense, and she said in March that hey, Iran does not have nuclear weapons. Okay, fine, March. So March gone by, March, April, May, and June. So after 3 months, Donald has come on the scene and said, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter what she says. This was shortly after he left the G7, where Indian media was refused entry. But the idea that he simply said, wow, you know, it doesn't matter what she says, it's about what I say. And this I is not indicating Donald, this is an indication of the people behind him, scum rallies. And so it's imperative that we understand all of this from the perspective of the Quran. Now, it might sound difficult because there's been drone attacks in Sudan today. There have been airstrikes in Syria recently, and their airspace was used. In fact, Syria Syria, they don't even have an airspace. उनकी तो airspace ही कोई नहीं. सारे जहाज तबाह, त्यारा तबाह, उनके सारा military equipment, सेंसर से लेके weapon system से लेके ख़त्म. जब से ये दहशतगर्द जुलानी आया है, तो कहने का मकसद ये है कि वो मुल्क तो वैसे ही तबाह हो गया. That country is in ruins anyway, right? So that, और तुर्किया भी कह रहा है कि हमें भी ख़तरा है कि अगर इसराइल ने ईरान पे इस तरह स्ट्राइक किया तो हम पे भी कर सकता है. So Turkey is feeling trepidatious. They are in a semi state of fear, whereby they are saying if Israel can do this towards Iran, then surely they can do this with us. And that is quite alarming for anyone, really, because who's going to stop them? Nobody can stop them, right? At this point, at least. And the reason this is crucial for Pakistan, because they are next on the hit list. And Pakistan just came out of a crisis in terms of India. Pakistan has internal issues with Balochistan, और पाकिस्तान जो है कैपेबिलिटीज़ हैं, लेकिन दोबारा वही बात आ गई कि जब तक सीईओ कंपनी का, हेड कंपनी का साइन ऑफ नहीं करता, कोई काम नहीं हो सकता. ठीक है, सियासत में भी ऐसे ही है. डेमोक्रेसी जैसी चीज़ कोई नहीं, जमहूरियत जैसी चीज़ कोई नहीं. There's no such thing as democracy. There's no such thing as liberal democracy either, which is a bastardized version of democracy. There's no such thing as human rights. There's no such thing as law. There's no such thing as nation states. There's no such thing as Geneva Conventions. All of this is just word salad, complicated word salad, formulated by individuals about 100 or so years ago. You can read about Bretton Woods, the agreement. Bretton Woods के बारे में पढ़ें आप, जब जॉन मेynard Keynes, यहाँ कैम्ब्रिज का एक इकोनॉमिक्स प्रोफेसर, Keynes, right, it's called Keynesian economics. Keynes went and did agreements around the global order regarding the way money is to be used and how an economic order has to be established. Problem with that is it's not sustainable at all. And 20 or so years ago, I remember the Iraq invasion and the subjugation of Afghanistan and Pakistan being dragged into it. तो मुझे याद है बचपन में जो ये सारा हुआ था इराक, अफगानिस्तान और इन जगहों में, सेम स्क्रिप्ट, बिल्कुल डिटो कॉपी, is the exact same script, nothing different, right? There's nothing unique about the approach. Again, it's our incompetence. और अभी इस वक्त असर सलाह नमाज का टाइम हो गया. जाने से पहले मैं एक आयत, I'll recite an ayah from Surah Muhammad, which encompasses everything in terms of incompetence, in terms of competence. Okay, just find it exactly. Surah Muhammad 1314. Let me actually find it, because fortunately I cannot find the exact ayah here. Surah Muhammad. So, number 38. Here we go. Ayah number 38. Powerful, extremely powerful ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ها أنتم هؤلاء تدعون لتنفقوا في سبيل الله فمنكم من يبخل ومن يبخل فإنما يبخل عن نفسه والله الغني وأنتم الفقراء وإن تتولوا يستبدل قوما غيركم ثم لا يكونوا أمثالكم صدق الله العظيم. So this approximates to English as, behold, ye are those invited to spend of your substance in the way of Allah, but among you are some that are niggardly. But any who are niggardly are so at the expense of their own souls. Niggardly means selfish, I believe, or pride. Yeah, selfish, meager, miser. But Allah is free of all wants. Allah, and it is ye that are needy. If ye turn back from the path, He will substitute in your stead another people, then they would not be like you. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. That is exactly what we see now.
Rancor.
I will be back later tonight, inshallah. Till then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.